Hey everyone, and welcome to our craft room. My name's Julianne Richards and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in southern Tasmania, which I can say is actually sunny southern Tasmania today. It's a little bit different to usual, so I take advantage of all this natural light to actually get some crafting videos done. Okay, so just bear with me while I make sure my iPad is behaving itself. Here we go. Yep, so it is. I don't want to listen to my own voice, yuck. Anyway, so I thought today I would pop on and do a technique which is unusual for me. I'm not usually an ink technique person, but this one's really caught my imagination, so I thought I'd pop on and show you how to do this one. I have to thank Jenny, who is a fellow demo who I chat to now and then, who gave me the idea for this technique, or well, told me about this technique, and I thought I might adapt it to the Celebrate Sunflowers stamp set, which is one that I've actually been struggling with, I have to admit, a little bit. So who's on at the moment? Donna and Hannah and Margie. Hey guys. Okay, so here are two cards that I've already made using the salt technique, and hopefully if I bring the cards up nice and close to the camera, you'll actually be able to see what it actually does. Now, if you can look past the white embossed sunflowers to the blue background behind, you'll see it's actually got quite a really pleasant sort of motley light and dark sort of effect to it, and that's what we actually achieve with what we call this salt technique. And so it's lots of mess, well, it is when I do it, lots of mess and lots of fun, so be prepared to have to clean up a little bit afterwards, but anyway, as I think you can see, and if I bring this other one up, I've done this one with the reds and the yellows. It's quite effective and worth it. A bit of effort. So I'm going to actually reproduce this blue one because I think it's actually my favourite of the two that I've done. So I'm going to do this blue one here. Okay, so let's get crafting. Okay, so you can do this with just about any stamp set, I assume, but as I say, I was struggling with the sunflowers, so I wanted to bring a bit of colour into that stamp set, so I thought I'd give it a go with that one. Okay, so what I have here is a piece of shimmer paper. So it's Stampin' Up shimmer paper. I don't know, you can pick the shimmer up in that, but it's got a cute little sort of shimmer behind the scenes. I'm using this one because it actually is suitable with watercolouring, and that's what we're going to be doing here. There's a lot of water involved in what we're doing. You could also use actual watercolour paper as well, but I quite like the shimmer of this one to add that extra little bit of effect. I've got a chopping board from my kitchen as my base, is where I'm going to be doing my working on, and I've got some just normal old painter's masking tape, which I'm going to just pop very narrowly because I don't want to mask too much of my surface, top and bottom, and this is just to stop my paper from moving around too much on my board. Okay. So the blue one is a combination of Blueberry Bushel, which unfortunately is retiring in about a week, but it's one of my favourite blues, and Night of Navy. So I just wanted a little bit of dark in there, but it's mostly the Blueberry Bushel. So they're the two inks that I'm using in the background there. So what you need to do is get your little spritzer or something that you use to put water onto your paper, and give your shimmer paper just this, a bit of a light spritz, just so it's even all over, but not too flooded. That was my mistake the first time, I ended up with water everywhere. Okay, so then I'll grab my Blueberry Bushel ink, and I'm going to, you could use aqua painters or brushes or something to add that ink to your paper, but I'm going to use a stamp block. And what I actually do, hey Renee, thanks for joining me, I do is dip my block in my ink and get it nice and inky, and then I'm just going to dab it onto my paper. Now it's going to run everywhere, but that's okay, that's part of the fun. Oh, that one didn't have enough on it. I'm just getting some ink onto, I don't think I spritzed that enough there, that's why it's not getting the ink on it. There we go. Just dab it around, and this is where the mess comes in. Just around. I like adding my ink in big daubs, big spaces, so, and just there, got that covered. Now you could do lots of different colours in there, like this one. When I did the sunset, I started with real red and worked through to Daffodil Delight, so it was sort of a range of reds and yellows all the way up. So yeah, depending on what effect you're after, you can sort of swap between your colours. So that's the blue blueberry bushel, and then I just want a single sort of daub of the navy in the middle. So I just wanted a slightly darker centre as a highlight for my sunflower. It's just a bit of a sneaky video today. I'm actually at work. I'm not at work, I'm signed on at work. We're working at home at the moment, but I thought I would jump in and do a quick video while nobody was watching, while I was on my lunch hour. So if anyone from work's watching, I'll be back on as soon as I finish this. I think the boss was gone off on with a headache, so I think I'm safe. Okay, so I've got some normal kitchen table salt here, just here. We can put a bit in my hand, and I'm just going to sprinkle that evenly while our paper is still semi sort of moist, semi wet. I'll sprinkle some salt around. Don't have to go too much. We don't want to give ourselves hypertension, but just a little bit of salt evenly around there. And just once you've done that, just another quick spritz. There we go. Okay, so that basically now just has to dry. So you can bring in your heat tool. You can bring in your heat tool to dry that off, or just let it dry sort of naturally. And given that we are going to be heat embossing this, you are best to let it dry off completely, because as we know, embossing powder and moisture don't really mix very well. So anyway, I'm not going to make you sit, oh, forgive that noise, I'm not going to make you sit there and watch me dry that. So what you do once that's dry, you basically flick off all the salt, because it will dry and separate from your paper quite easily. So just flick off all your salt off the paper until it's gone, and you will get something like that. So this is one I did while I was preparing for the video. So I've just flicked off all the salt, flicked it off onto the floor, vacuum it up later, and that's the effect that I've got. So you can see I've got my blueberry bushel around the edges and a sort of darker splodge in the middle there. Probably with the this one I've gone a little bit light on the side, so I probably should have put a little bit more blueberry bushel there, as I did on the one that you've just watched. I made sure I covered those sides okay, but I think that's quite nice, and it'll be effective on the card. So there we are. So that's what the salt technique gives you. It's not much to look at on its own, but I think probably once you finish the card, it's quite unusual. Okay, so to finish this card, I'm actually going to bring in the Celebrating Sunflowers stamp set, which I should have got out earlier, but I didn't, so here it is here. And I'm going to put, the main focus of the card is going to be this big beautiful sunflower here. And I'm going to heat emboss it with white, so it's really going to stand out. So I'll just grab a block. My biggest block for my biggest stamp. Going to bring in my buddy just to make sure I get rid of all that moisture off the card, off the paper. And I'll bring in my Versamark ink, and we'll ink up this sunflower. Forgive that as it wobbles. My trampoline floor wobbles around like nothing else. Anyway, so I'm going to pop that sunflower just off to the side roughly about centre. So we'll do that. You probably won't be able to see it there because it is clear ink. I'm going to bring in my little mat there and bring in my white embossing powder. And this is where I get really messy. I'm not a very neat embosser, probably because I put so much on. There we go. Bit of a flick. And there we are, we have our white embossed sunflower, which I'm just going to bring in the heat gun and we'll make that melt. So forgive the noise. Okay, here we go. It's turning pretty well, just a few more bits. Ouch, burnt my finger. I think that's done. I have no light coming in my window, so I can't quite see. Yep, I think that's all embossed. Oh no, a little bit down the end here. There we go. Okay, so there's our main image there. I'm going to pop this all back in there. Try and not make a mess. I'm going to bring in the little sunflower from the set. This little one here, which I actually find more useful as an image. It's more accessible. It's quite pretty. Bring in my ink as well. Again, I'm just going to pop this little one around the edges here, just popping in from the corners. Oops. Now you do get everything folding up here, so just be careful because your paper will come up and meet you, which makes stamping a little bit difficult. I'm going to do one there, so on each of these corners. So I might just emboss those before it dries. Okay, so bring in the machine again. Apologies. Oh, everyone who's watching, I can see Kathy's come up, and my friend Michelle, and Judy and Cheryl. Hey everyone, I'll answer all your comments once I finish. The noise makes it a bit difficult. But thanks for joining me at short notice today. There we are. Okay, so we'll pop a couple of other little daisies, sunflowers at the top here. I might rotate it a little bit just so it doesn't look so samey. More white powder. Okay. And a bit more noise. Okay, that's nearly that one done. Now, the set also has, I'll just pop this away, the set also has a really nice single leaf in it. Oh. So, I'm going to bring this one in as well. And just around the edges, leave that there. So just poking in here from the edges. Ooh. Yeah. And maybe one from the top, just a little sneak peek. And maybe one coming in from the, oh careful, one coming in from the bottom as well. Here we are, so that's probably enough, I'd say. So just one more blast of the noise, apologies here. There we go, it's all turning. There we go. So that's all the heat embossing of the flowers. I'm going to heat emboss the sentiment as well. We'll do that in a second. Okay, so there. How's that look? I really like that. It's sort of like, yeah, blue and white really appeals. For some strange reason, probably, to me. Anyway, cool. So let's pop all this mess away for the moment. And just clean up a little bit. Oh, damn. Over here to the left where I've popped that thing to dry, I've just piled everything on top of it, which doesn't, it's not a good look. I'll pop it way away. There we go. That's better. Okay, we'll just tidy up this a little bit. There we are. Oh, forgive me. There we go. Okay. So, you never know I've been in heat embossing now. Who said I'm messy? Okay, so let's bring our embossed panel back. So it's going to curl up like that. So you're going to have a bit of a curl happening. So just sort of straighten it as well as best you can. There we go. And then I'm going to bring in the rest of my card. So I love blue and yellow as a combo. I absolutely do. Like one of my first kitchen renovations, I painted it an incredibly bright blue and incredibly bright yellow. So my husband decided that basically I'm colour blind because only I could have loved it, but I did love it. Anyway, so I'm going to go blue and yellow here because nobody can tell me off. And I'm going to add our panel. So this panel here has been trimmed to 3 and 7/8 wide and 5 and a half long. Okay, so it then fits into this panel of Daffodil Delight that I'm going to, that's just a tiny bit bigger, so you can just get a little edge of yellow around the edge. And then I've got a card base in Blueberry Bushel, which, as I say, if you love this colour, please grab it before it goes because it is retiring on the 3rd of June. And that is my usual card base, 4 1/8 by 5 3/4. So there we go. So the same sort of layers that we always do. So I'll just attach all those. I'm actually going to use double-sided tape or tear and tape to attach my embossed panel. I just find that it when it's got that bit of a curve from being heat embossed, it actually, what's the word, sits down better when you've got double-sided tape on the back, or tearing tape of course. There we go. You could use snail adhesive as well. And I'm going to pop some in the middle as well. I'll just bring all those layers off. Go, everything's really gritty and powdery and salty, but hey, doesn't always have to be tidy, does it? Definitely not. Oh, thank you, Marilyn. I'm glad you like it. I'd like to see if you could come up with something and show me about on my page. That would be great. I'd love to see what all the cards that people come up with. So I'm just going to pop this one down on my yellow Daffodil Delight layer there, just with the slight tinge of yellow. And then I'm just going to bring in my glue, if I have any. Oh, crash bang, where's my glue? Here. You can tell I wasn't that organised when I came to air. Just some glue on the back of that. And onto my card. Go. And that will hold it nice and flat. Once you've got those layers on there, that'll be nice and flat. So there we are. So that's mostly done. You like that? I think that's really nice. Okay, so we'll do a sentiment. I've got a little leftover block of our blueberry bushel here, and I'll use the Thanks a Bunch from the stamp set, but you could use anything, make it a happy birthday card or anything, just use your favourite sentiment. So thanks a bunch. Just going to bring my buddy in. Okay. And there we go. I'm going to heat emboss this in white as well and then trim it down. So there is a little bit noise left. There we go. Oh, sorry, Judy, did you ask me a question there? Missed the beginning. What did you use to colour before the salt? It's Blueberry Bushel and Night of Navy ink. And I've just spritzed it with water before I started, and then used a block, a stamp block with the ink on it to watercolour the background. Hope that makes sense. I'll just watch the replay, hopefully. Okay, so I'm just a little bit more noise. Apologies for that. Should have had this done before. Okay, just turning now. Okay. Get rid of this again. Get rid of that. Okay, so I'm just going to trim this down, bring in my trimmer. Oh. Just going to try and keep this as narrow as I possibly can, because I don't want it to cover over too much of our pretty sunflower. So I'm just going to keep it as a really narrow little sentiment box. You could, of course, just cut around it, like lots of people are doing at the moment, sort of cut around the sentiment so that it is just the shape of the sentiment. I could actually do that, but I won't. I might even come a little bit closer. My luck, I'll come too close and it'll be ruined and I have to start again. Anyway, I think that's about right. Tiny bit more. Okay, and then trim a little bit off the end. Sorry, you're probably not seeing this, but it's about as close as I can bring my trimmer. Apologies. I'll trim up here instead, I suppose. Which is a bit trickier without the thing. I'm just going to trim that off. Hopefully. There you go. Of course, if you have your little guillotine from last celebration, we could have used that as well. There you go. So there, I've just got a tiny little sentiment box there, just like that. I'm going to pop that up on some dimensionals, if I can find some. Been doing lots and lots of card kits, and my dimensionals seem to be disappearing at great speed. Anyway, I've got little ones. I might just use little ones. So if anyone's interested on doing an online class with me, I'm sort of doing all online classes at the moment with the lockdowns in various places. If you're interested in doing an online class, I do have several available at the moment. Just check my website, my Facebook page for details. This stamp, not this technique, but this stamp is one of them. So if you like this one and want some ideas, just pop over and have a look. Okay, so I'm going to pop this in just somewhere not too high, not too low, somewhere in the middle, and line it up with the edge. Just make sure that's straight. Okay, which it's not. There we are. Okay, so how's that? I think that's really, really nice. But I am a bit of a sucker for a blue-yellow combo. So anyway, there we go. Just in the middle. Something I'm also a bit of a sucker for at the moment is layered inserts. So I've got a layer of our Daffodil Delight, which is actually the same size as the Daffodil Delight layer on the front. So I'm going to pop that in. Just there. It's a bit hard. I usually have my grid paper under there. It's a bit hard to see this. And a layer of Whisper White, which is just smaller. And I find these layers insides are very good if you're using just normal cardstock as your card base, as opposed to a thick, very vanilla or Whisper White. That gives a bit of structure, a bit of backbone to the card, so it's not quite as flexible if you layer a little bit. Okay, so there we are, and on the inside, no nude cards. I'm going to grab the big stamp again. Ooh. The big stamp, and I'm going to grab my Daffodil Delight ink. Oh, tricky. I want to stamp off. I haven't got anything to stamp off onto. Need grid paper. Okay, stamp off onto this scrap. No, not big enough. Just stamp off onto this spare piece of white here. I'm going to stamp off a couple of times and then onto the card. Just like that. Just a very faint, very, very faint sunflower there. And then I'll bring in the Night of Navy here. And what have we got? Thanks a bunch. We'll go, know that you are loved. Probably not quite as appropriate, but just so we've got something on the inside. of that in the middle of our beautiful big sunflower. There we go. Cool. Well, that one's pretty much done. Okay, so we've got our centre there. You can see we've got just a nice faint sunflower with our sentiment. But the main event is definitely that front there with the salt technique background with its motley effect and the white heat embossed sunflowers. So hopefully you enjoyed that and you can get something out of it. If you do try this technique, please, which I don't pretend that I invented, I did pick up thanks to Jenny Christmas if she's watching. Yeah, please put your pictures on my Facebook page. I'd love to see what everyone else is coming up with. It'd be great to get some action like that happening on the page. So please, and you know, if you live in Australia and haven't got a demonstrator, I'd love to hear from you as well if you'd like to be a part of Stamping Up and get hold of some of these wonderful products. Anyway, so thanks again for joining me. Thanks all my old faithfuls and all the new people I've seen today, which is really great. So I'll talk to you all again, probably do another video similar to this at the weekend. So thanks a lot and I'll talk to you later.